The vast darkness of space stretched out like an endless black canvas, punctuated by distant starlight and the occasional glimmer of asteroid fields. Commander Deho sat in the command chair of the caloric scout ship, his three-fingered hands resting casually on the control panels. The ship's advanced sensors hummed softly, scanning the surrounding space with precision that had made the Caloric Interstellar Confederation the most respected technological power in this sector of the galaxy. "Preliminary scan complete," announced researcher Jinwoo from his station. His voice was flat, professional, typical of caloric communication protocols. "Detecting an unknown vessel approximately 2.3 million kilometers from our current position." Deho leaned forward, his scaled skin shifting color slightly, a subtle biological response to mild curiosity. The ship's holographic display flickered to life, showing a detailed image of the detected vessel. For a moment, he thought there might be an error in the scanning systems. The ship was small, incredibly small. It looked like something a child might construct from spare parts found in a maintenance bay. Its hull was a mix of dull metallic grays, with visible welding marks and patches that suggested repeated repairs. Nothing about the vessel suggested advanced technology or military capability. "Confirm vessel identification," Deho commanded, a hint of boredom creeping into his voice. Jinwoo's fingers danced across multiple sensor interfaces. "Vessel matches preliminary database entries for human exploration craft. Registration identifies it as the Horizon Explorer, a deep space research vessel from the United Earth Navigation Corps." Deho couldn't help but chuckle. The humans were a relatively new species in galactic terms, barely a century into their space exploration efforts. Their technology was considered primitive by most advanced civilizations. The caloric had watched their early attempts at interstellar travel with a mixture of amusement and mild condescension. Inside the human vessel, a different scene was unfolding. Captain Elena Rodriguez sat in her command chair, surrounded by a small crew of 6 researchers and 2 technical specialists. They were in the middle of a critical mission, mapping potential resource-rich zones in a largely unexplored section of the Orion Arm. "Mike, run another calibration on the long-range scanners," Elena said to her chief technical officer. "We got some unusual energy readings in the asteroid field to our port side." Michael Chen, a veteran space engineer with 20 years of experience, was already working on the scanner systems. His hands moved quickly, adjusting delicate instruments that looked almost fragile compared to the robust alien technology just kilometers away. What neither the caloric crew nor the human crew realized was how close they were to a moment that would change galactic history forever. Deho continued to watch the human vessel, his sensors collecting data. The ship's movements were erratic, sometimes seeming almost random. It would drift slightly, then make precise course corrections that seemed to defy the basic laws of known propulsion physics. "Interesting," muttered Jinwoo. "Their navigation seems unconventional." The caloric scout ship was massive compared to the human vessel. It was a sleek, dark shape that could obliterate the smaller craft with a single energy pulse. Its advanced cloaking technology meant the humans were likely unaware of its presence. But something was different about this encounter, something that neither the confident caloric commander nor his crew could predict. The human vessel suddenly changed course, moving with a suddenness that caught Deho's attention. It wasn't a panicked movement. It was calculated, precise, as if the small craft knew exactly what it was doing. For the first time in his long career, Commander Deho felt a tiny spark of something unexpected. Uncertainty. Little did he know, this moment would be the beginning of a series of events that would challenge everything the Caloric Interstellar Confederation believed about technological superiority, strategic capability, and the nature of intelligence itself. First contact was about to get very interesting. The communication chamber of the Caloric Confederation's Central Command was a marvel of technological sophistication. Holographic displays covered every wall, showing real-time data from across the galaxy. Smooth, curved surfaces in deep blues and silvery grays reflected the soft artificial lighting. At the center of the room, Commander Deho stood before a panel of senior military leaders, preparing to deliver his initial report about the human vessel. Admiral Kyung, the highest-ranking officer, sat with an expression of practiced boredom. His scaled skin had a deep green tint that shifted subtly with each breath, a biological indicator of his species' emotional state. Around him, 6 other high-ranking officials waited to hear about what was surely another routine reconnaissance mission. "Report," Admiral Kyung commanded, his voice a low, resonant sound that seemed to vibrate through the room. Deho stepped forward, activating a holographic display that showed the small human vessel. The image flickered, showing multiple sensor readings and trajectory analyses. "The human exploration ship appears to be technologically primitive," he began. "Their propulsion system is based on chemical rockets and basic ion drives. Navigation seems rudimentary at best." The other commanders exchanged knowing glances. The Caloric Confederation had encountered hundreds of developing species during their centuries of space exploration. Most were harmless. Many were candidates for eventual technological absorption or controlled development. "Our initial scans reveal several critical limitations," Deho continued. He zoomed in on the vessel's hull, highlighting what he considered significant weaknesses. "Their radiation shielding is minimal. Structural integrity is compromised by multiple repair patches. The crew complement is small, only 8 individuals." One of the junior officers, Researcher 1, raised a hand. "Commander, have you conducted any direct communication attempts?" Daho's skin rippled, a caloric gesture of mild dismissal. "Unnecessary. Their communication arrays are primitive. We intercepted basic digital transmissions. Nothing suggests they possess advanced communication technologies." The holographic display changed, showing a series of technical diagrams. Repair logs from the human vessel were projected, showing multiple system replacements and jury-rigged solutions. To the caloric observers, it looked like a ship constantly on the brink of total failure. Admiral Kyung leaned forward slightly. "Your recommendation?" "Minimal engagement," Deho responded immediately. "Potential future annexation of their territorial systems would be straightforward. They lack the defensive capabilities to resist even a small caloric intervention force." The room fell silent. This was a familiar narrative. Countless species had been cataloged, controlled, or simply redirected by the Caloric Confederation. Their technological superiority was unquestioned. Their military might was unmatched. What none of them realized was how wrong they were about to be. Back in the human vessel, Captain Alina Rodriguez was reviewing the same data that the caloric commanders were dismissing. Her team worked with a precision that belied their apparently limited resources. Michael Chen was running complex computational models, his fingers moving across holographic interfaces with practiced speed. "Alina," he called out, "these energy fluctuations from the asteroid field don't make sense." She moved closer, studying the data. Something was different. The readings suggested capabilities far beyond what their current technology should allow. But Alina knew something the caloric observers didn't. Humans had a unique ability to innovate under pressure. Their ship might look like a collection of spare parts. Their technology might seem outdated, but each repair, each modification, was a lesson learned. Each challenge was an opportunity for improvement. The Caloric Confederation was about to receive a lesson in underestimation. As the military leaders continued their discussion, dismissing the human vessel as another potential subject race, the universe prepared to teach them a fundamental truth: appearances can be deeply, dramatically misleading. First contact was never simple, and humanity was about to prove that in ways no one could predict. Researcher Jinwoo had been waiting for this moment. The human vessel was perfectly positioned within their scanning range, and the caloric scientific team saw an opportunity too tempting to resist. They wanted to test the limits of the primitive human ship, to demonstrate the vast technological superiority of the Caloric Confederation. "Initiate gravity manipulation field," Jinwoo commanded, his fingers dancing across a complex control panel. The caloric scout ship hummed with energy. Sophisticated gravitational generators began to pulse, creating a localized field of intense gravitational stress that would typically crush any known vessel into a compact ball of twisted metal. It was a standard testing protocol used by the caloric military, a way to measure the structural integrity of potential target ships. Inside the human vessel, things were about to get interesting. Captain Elena Rodriguez was in the middle of her daily systems check when the first tremors hit. Her experience told her this was no ordinary space disturbance. "Michael," she called out, "run a full diagnostic. Something's not right." Michael Chen was already moving. His hands flew across the control panels, checking multiple systems simultaneously. Years of space exploration had taught him that survival often depended on split-second decisions and unbreakable focus. The gravity manipulation field intensified. Outside the ship, space itself seemed to warp and bend. Any ordinary vessel would have been crushed instantly. The laws of physics, as understood by most spacefaring civilizations, suggested complete and total destruction was imminent. But the Horizon Explorer was no ordinary ship. As the gravitational stress increased, something unexpected happened. The ship didn't just resist, it began to adapt. Micro-adjustments happened faster than the caloric sensors could track. The hull flexed in ways that defied conventional engineering principles. Where other ships would have been ripped apart, this human vessel seemed to absorb the gravitational stress, redistributing energy in patterns that made no sense to the alien observers. "Impossible," Jinwoo muttered, watching the sensor readings. Commander Daeho leaned forward, his earlier confidence beginning to crack. The holographic displays showed data that contradicted everything they knew about spacecraft design and structural limitations. Inside the Horizon Explorer, Elena and her crew worked with a calm that would have surprised the caloric observers. Each crew member moved with a precision that suggested they had prepared for situations far beyond normal space exploration challenges. Michael's voice cut through the tension. Gravitational field detected. External source. Attempting compensation. What happened next would become a legendary moment in space exploration history. The human ship not only survived the intense gravitational manipulation, but began to use the energy against its source. It was as if the vessel was learning, adapting, turning a potential threat into an opportunity for data collection and strategic response. Jinwoo's hands trembled slightly as he watched the readings. "Commander," he said, his voice losing its previous confidence, "the human vessel is responding." Daeho said nothing. The holographic displays told a story that challenged everything the Caloric Confederation believed about technological capability. The gravity manipulation field, designed to destroy, had become a tool of unexpected discovery. As the experiment continued, the human ship's responses became even more remarkable. Small energy pulses began to echo back towards the caloric scout ship, not as attacks, but as something more complex. They were probes, investigations. The humans were gathering data about the very technology being used against them. What should have been a simple demonstration of technological superiority had transformed into something else entirely. A challenge. A moment of first true contact. A realization that humanity was something entirely different from what the Caloric Confederation had assumed. The universe has a way of surprising those who believe they understand everything. And on this day, in the vast emptiness of space, humanity was about to deliver a lesson that would change galactic history forever. The human ship not only survived the gravity manipulation, but responded with a series of maneuvers that defied all known physical limitations. Captain Rodriguez and her crew transformed their apparently simple vessel into a weapon of such unpredictable complexity that the caloric observers were left speechless. The central intelligence chamber of the Caloric Confederation was not designed for shock. Smooth metallic walls and advanced holographic displays typically displayed information with cold, calculated precision. But today, everything was different. Commander Daeho's initial report had been classified at the highest level. The video recordings of the human vessel's impossible response to the gravity manipulation field were watched and rewatched by the most brilliant minds in the caloric military. Admiral Kyung sat at the head of the massive circular table. His scaled skin had turned a deep mottled gray, a clear sign of deep concern. Around him, the top researchers and military strategists of the Caloric Confederation were engaged in heated discussion. "This is impossible," said Dr. Young, the chief scientific advisor. Her holographic display showed multiple angles of the human ship's response. No known species can adapt to gravitational stress at this level. The room fell silent. Researcher Jinwoo stepped forward. He had been the first to witness the encounter, and now he was presenting a comprehensive analysis. His presentation began with the initial sensor data, showing the human vessel as a seemingly primitive craft. Then it transitioned to the gravity experiment footage. "Watch carefully," Jinwoo said, his finger tracing the ship's movements. The hologram showed how the Horizon Explorer had not just survived, but actively responded to the gravitational manipulation. It was like watching a living organism adapt in real time. The ship's hull seemed to flex and change, nanite systems working faster than any known technological repair mechanism. "Our initial assessment was completely wrong," Jinwoo continued. "The humans are not a primitive species. They are something else entirely." Admiral Kyung leaned forward. "Explain." Jinwoo's next slide showed a breakdown of the ship's adaptive capabilities. Their technology is modular, flexible. Every system has multiple backup plans. Where we build rigid structures, they create living networks that can change instantly. The military leaders exchanged worried glances. The Caloric Confederation had conquered hundreds of species. They had technological superiority that was unquestioned across multiple star systems. But this was different. This was something new. A junior officer named Huang raised a hand. "We need more data," he said. "We cannot make a full strategic assessment based on a single encounter." Admiral Kyung nodded. "Prepare a comprehensive intelligence gathering mission," he commanded. "I want to know everything about these humans. Their technology, their culture, their weaknesses." But even as he spoke, everyone in the room knew something had changed. The universe had just become a more complicated place. Back on the Horizon Explorer, Captain Elena Rodriguez was completely unaware of the massive strategic discussions happening light years away. She and her crew were doing what they always did: exploring, adapting, solving problems. Michael Chen was reviewing the data from the gravity manipulation experiment. "We learned something interesting," he told Elena. "Their gravitational technology is advanced, but it has predictable patterns." Elena smiled. Humans had survived by being unpredictable, by seeing challenges as opportunities, by never accepting that something was impossible. The Caloric Confederation was about to learn a fundamental truth about humanity. They didn't just survive. They transformed challenges into advantages. Intelligence reports began to flood in. Researchers analyzed every piece of data about human exploration missions. They discovered a species that seemed to thrive on turning limitations into strengths. Humanity's history was full of impossible achievements. They went from wooden ships to space exploration in just a few hundred years. They solved problems by breaking rules, by thinking differently, by believing that nothing was truly impossible. The caloric military began to realize that their previous methods of categorizing and controlling developing species would not work with humans. This was not a species that could be easily controlled or predicted. This was a species that would change everything. As the intelligence gathering continued, one thing became crystal clear. The encounter with the Horizon Explorer was just the beginning of a much larger story. Humanity was about to become a significant variable in galactic politics, in ways no one could yet imagine. The Caloric Intelligence Archives were unlike any other database in the known galaxy. Massive crystal storage units held billions of terabytes of information about countless species. But never before had a single species generated so much intense research in such a short time. Dr. Young sat in a specially designed research chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing everything discovered about humans. Her team had been working nonstop for weeks, analyzing every piece of information they could find. "Look at this," she said to researcher Jinwoo, pointing to a historical timeline of human achievements. The hologram showed a compressed history of human development. It was unlike anything the caloric researchers had ever seen. Most developing species followed a predictable pattern of technological growth. Slow, methodical, controlled. Humans were different. In just a few hundred years, they had gone from horse-drawn carriages to global communication networks, from basic flight to space exploration, from simple tools to complex computer systems. Each technological leap seemed to happen in rapid, unexpected bursts. Their innovation comes from failure, Jinwoo observed, studying the historical data. Where other species would give up, humans see a problem as a challenge to be solved. The historical records were filled with examples that defied logical explanation. During a period called World War II, humans had developed nuclear technology in just a few years. They had gone from basic rocketry to landing on their moon in less than 2 decades. When one approach didn't work, they immediately created multiple alternative solutions. Dr. Young pulled up records of the Horizon Explorer's technical specifications. The ship was a marvel of adaptive engineering. Every system had multiple backup plans. The hull wasn't just a protective shell. It was a living, thinking network that could repair and adapt in real time. "Their technology is organic," she muttered. "Not in a biological sense, but in how it thinks, how it grows, how it solves problems." The research team discovered something even more shocking. Humans didn't just solve problems individually. They worked as collective units, sharing knowledge faster than any known species. One person's breakthrough could be shared globally in minutes. Their computer networks were like massive, distributed intelligence systems. No single point of failure could stop their information flow. When one path was blocked, they would immediately create multiple alternative routes. Researcher Huang brought up a recent report about human space exploration. "They're sending probes to areas other species consider too dangerous," he said, "not out of recklessness, but out of pure curiosity." The caloric team realized humans were driven by something beyond simple technological progress. They were motivated by an almost impossible combination of curiosity, creativity, and stubborn determination. Their military history was equally fascinating. Humans had developed technologies specifically to solve impossible challenges. When faced with limitations, they didn't accept defeat. They reimagined the entire problem. Dr. Young found a quote from a human scientist that seemed to capture their entire approach to problem solving. "Impossible is just a word people use to make themselves feel better about not trying." The implications were massive. The Caloric Confederation had always believed in controlled, predictable technological development. Humans showed that true innovation came from breaking rules, from seeing limitations as opportunities. "They don't just adapt," Jinwoo said, his voice filled with a mixture of respect and concern. "They transform." As the research continued, one thing became clear. The encounter with the Horizon Explorer was not just a single incident. It was a window into a species that would change the entire understanding of technological development. Humans were not just another species to be categorized or controlled. They were a force of nature. And the galaxy was about to discover just how unpredictable that force could be. The Grand Council Chamber of the Caloric Confederation was not designed for uncertainty. Massive crystal columns stretched toward a ceiling that reflected holographic star maps. Normally, this space represented absolute power, the ability to make decisions that shaped entire star systems. Today, everything was different. Admiral Kyung stood at the center of the circular chamber. Around him, the most powerful leaders of the Caloric Confederation sat in stunned silence. The comprehensive report about humans lay displayed in multiple holographic projections, each more shocking than the last. "We've made a mistake," Kyung said simply. The words hung in the air like a physical weight. Dr. Young stepped forward, her presentation ready. Her holographic display began to show the complex data they had gathered about humans. Images flashed rapidly, technological achievements, historical moments of unexpected innovation, strategic adaptations that defied all known scientific understanding. Humans are not like any species we've encountered before, she explained. They don't just adapt. They completely reimagine possibilities. The council members watched as the presentation unfolded. Recordings from the Horizon Explorer's encounter showed how a seemingly simple ship had turned a potential destruction scenario into a massive intelligence-gathering operation. Where other species would have been crushed, humans had transformed the threat into an opportunity. Researcher Jinwoo presented the diplomatic recommendations. Traditional methods of engagement will not work, he said. We cannot treat humans as a subject species. They will not comply. They will not be controlled. The implications were massive. The Caloric Confederation had spent thousands of years developing a system of galactic control. They would identify developing species, assess their technological capabilities, and then either integrate them into their system or carefully manage their development. Humans broke every single one of those rules. Their technological growth is exponential, Jinwoo continued. In less than 300 years, they went from basic mechanical tools to space exploration. They solve problems by breaking existing rules, not following them. A senior council member named Huang raised a critical question. How do we approach a species that sees limitations as challenges? The room fell silent. Dr. Young pulled up a series of historical human achievements, moments where humans had done what every other species considered impossible: landing on their moon, developing global communication networks, creating technologies that transformed entire industries in decades instead of centuries. They don't just think outside the box, she said. They don't even recognize the box exists. The diplomatic strategy needed a complete overhaul. Every previous approach would fail with humans. They couldn't be threatened. They couldn't be controlled. They sought every challenge as an invitation to innovate. Admiral Kyung made a decision that would change galactic politics forever. We will approach them as potential partners, he declared. Not as a species to be managed, but as a potential ally we do not yet understand. The implications were revolutionary. For the first time in their history, the Caloric Confederation was admitting that they might not understand everything. That a younger, seemingly less advanced species might have something to teach them. Diplomatic protocols were rewritten. Intelligence gathering continued, but the fundamental approach had changed. Humans were not a problem to be solved. They were a phenomenon to be understood. As the council meeting concluded, one thing became crystal clear. The encounter with the Horizon Explorer was more than just a military incident. It was a turning point in galactic history. Humanity had just entered the larger cosmic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. The Caloric Confederation's Primary Analysis Center was a marvel of technological sophistication. Massive data crystals hummed with stored information, processing millions of calculations per second. In the center of this vast chamber, a special team worked on the most classified project in recent galactic history: a complete review of the encounter with the human vessel Horizon Explorer. Commander Deo sat at the primary analysis station, his scaled hands moving across holographic interfaces. The gravity manipulation experiment footage played on multiple screens, each angle revealing something new with every review. "Play it again," he commanded. The recording began. The initial moments showed the caloric scout ship preparing to test its gravitational field generator. The human vessel looked small, insignificant, exactly the kind of target they had neutralized countless times before. But this time was different. Dr. Young stood beside Dago, her analysis tools breaking down the encounter millisecond by millisecond. "Look here," she said, pointing to a specific moment in the recording. The hologram zoomed in. As the gravitational field intensified, the human ship didn't just resist. It began to change. Microscopic systems within the hull began to reconfigure. Repair nanites moved faster than any known technological system, restructuring the ship's very molecular composition. They're not just defending, Young explained. They're learning. Researcher Jinwoo brought up comparative data from other species the caloric had encountered. Most would have been crushed instantly. Some might have attempted a basic defensive maneuver. But the Horizon Explorer was doing something entirely unexpected. The ship was turning the attack into an information-gathering mission. Every pulse of gravitational energy was being analyzed, mapped, understood. The humans weren't just surviving. They were collecting data about caloric technology at a rate that defied all previous understanding of technological adaptation. "Watch the energy signatures," Jinwoo said. The hologram showed how the human ship began to send back energy pulses that mirrored and then subtly altered the gravitational field. It was like a complex dance where one partner was trying to destroy the other, and the other was learning the entire dance in real time. Commander Daeho watched with a mixture of professional fascination and growing concern. Everything they thought they knew about technological hierarchy was being challenged. The analysis continued. The team discovered that the Horizon Explorer's adaptive systems worked on principles completely different from any known species. Where other spacecraft had rigid, predetermined response protocols, this ship had a living, thinking network. Each system was connected. Each failure was an opportunity to learn. Each challenge was a chance to grow. "Their technology is organic," Dr. Young muttered. "Not biological, but adaptive. Alive." The gravitational experiment had revealed more than just the ship's capabilities. It had shown a fundamental difference in approach to technology and survival. Most species saw challenges as threats to be avoided. Humans saw challenges as opportunities to be explored. Hours turned into days. The analysis team broke down every single moment of the encounter. They studied the ship's energy signatures, its molecular restructuring, its impossible adaptations. "This changes everything," Daeho finally said. The recording showed the final moments of the gravitational test. Where any other vessel would have been destroyed, the Horizon Explorer emerged not just intact, but enhanced. It had used the most advanced caloric technology as a tool for its own development. Jinwoo pulled up a final summary. "Recommendation," he said. "Approach with caution. Understand before attempting to control." The Caloric Confederation had encountered many species. They had conquered, controlled, or carefully managed hundreds of developing civilizations. Humans would be different. This was not a species to be conquered. This was a species that would change the rules of conquest itself. As the analysis concluded, one thing became absolutely clear. The encounter with the Horizon Explorer was more than just a military incident. It was a turning point in galactic history. The Caloric Confederation's Supreme Council chamber was silent. Admiral Kyung stood at the center, holding a document that would change everything they knew about galactic exploration and interaction. It was the final report on humanity. Decades of research, countless hours of analysis, and one unexpected encounter with the Horizon Explorer had led to this moment. The report was not just a military document. It was a complete reimagining of how advanced civilizations might understand emerging species. "We were wrong," Admiral Kyung began. His words echoed through the vast chamber. The holographic displays showed the journey of their understanding. From initial dismissal to profound respect. From seeing humans as a primitive species to recognizing them as something entirely unprecedented in galactic history. Researcher Jinwoo stepped forward. He had been part of the team that first encountered the human vessel. Now he would present the final recommendations. "Humans are not a species to be controlled," he explained. "They are a force of nature." The displays showed a comprehensive timeline. In just a few hundred years, humans had achieved technological advancements that would take most species thousands of years. They had gone from basic mechanical tools to space exploration, from simple communication networks to complex adaptive technologies. Dr. Young's research revealed something even more surprising. Human innovation wasn't just about technology. It was about an approach to challenges that defied all previous understanding. Where other species saw limitations, Humans saw opportunities. Where others would give up, humans would find multiple solutions. Where conventional wisdom suggested something was impossible, humans would find a way. The report detailed multiple examples. How humans had solved medical challenges. How they had developed technologies that transformed entire industries. How they approached problems with a combination of creativity, determination, and an almost impossible ability to think beyond existing boundaries. They do not follow rules, Jinwoo continued. They'd rewrite them. The final recommendation was revolutionary. Instead of attempting to control or manage human expansion, the Caloric Confederation would approach them as potential partners, as a species with capabilities that could transform galactic understanding. Admiral Kyung activated the final holographic projection. It showed the Horizon Explorer, that small, seemingly insignificant vessel that had changed everything. The ship that had turned a potential destruction scenario into the greatest learning opportunity in their history. The report's conclusion was simple but profound. Always tist gravity we before most seeking humans. It was more than a military recommendation. It was a fundamental shift in understanding. Humanity was not just another species to be cataloged or controlled. They were a phenomenon, a civilization that saw the universe not as a fixed system, but as a massive playground of possibilities. The caloric leaders understood now that their previous methods of galactic interaction were obsolete. Humans would not be contained. They would not be limited. They would transform every challenge into an opportunity. Dr. Young's final analysis captured the essence of their discovery. Humans do not adapt to the universe. They'd reimagine it. As the council meeting concluded, a new era of galactic understanding began. The encounter with the Horizon Explorer was no longer just a military incident. It was a watershed moment in cosmic history. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, and nothing would ever be the same again. The universe was about to learn that the most dangerous thing you could do was underestimate a species driven by curiosity, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit of exploration. Asterisk classified caloric military intelligence report asterisk. Asterisk clearance level. Highest priority asterisk. Asterisk note. All previous dismissive assessments of human capabilities are hereby rescinded asterisk.